Hi friends, welcome back to the channel Tech Soldiers powered by D&D. Friends, this is continuation of part 4. If you did not watch my previous videos, the link is in the description. Once go through it. So friends, let's continue our topic. Otto Lilienthal. Sacrifices must be made. These were the final words of the Otto Lilienthal, referred as a glider king. He pioneered the human aviation. The German-based engineer was considered the first man to launch himself into the air, fly and land safely through his gliders. He was also one among the inspirations for the Wright brothers, who later designed the airplane. Though he had unsuccessful attempts in his childhood, he was committed to the idea of human flight. After experimenting with ornithopters, in 1889 he published a book called Bird Flight as the Basis of Aviation, which described the flight of birds with its types and structures, his theories and the applications of gathered data, which became one of the classics of aviation. His first glider was all set to fly in 1891. Before his death in 1896, he had built 18 models, of which 15 were monoplanes and the rest 3 were biplanes. He had also taken more than 2000 glider flights. Many countries' newspapers and magazines published photographs of Lilienthal gliding, positively impressing the public. Thereby, the scientific opinion on flying missions gradually started arising in the era where flying is considered unscientific. However, Lilienthal's gliders had one major fault. Other than continuous motions of the pilot, they had no means of control to the flight. The pilot needs to bend and exercise considerable strength to affect the direction and stability of the glider. By shifting his weight, he was able to balance the craft. While flying on 9th of August 1896, Lilienthal fell 17 meters, breaking his spine. Sadly, he died the next day. Although he was dead and had flaws in the design, Lilienthal influenced the aviation industry. On February 19, 2016, John S. Hosbring published on YouTube a unique animation of all the original photographs of Lilienthal between 1893 and 1896, with a courtesy from Lilienthal Museum. The next one is Thomas Makell. The death of this inventor is a very surprising one. Thomas Makell was an American chemist well known for his 2 most popular inventions, tetraethyl lead and dichloro-difluoromethane. In 1930, Makell discovered odor-free, non-toxic and non-flammable refrigerant gas that could be used in residential refrigerators and air conditioners called dichloro-difluoromethane, which was soon commercially produced as Freon 12 by Kinetic Chemicals. Though appalled during his time, later he was castigated for the same inventions. He is known as the person who had unfavorably impacted the atmosphere than any other single organism in the Earth history, and also the one human who is responsible for more deaths than any other in the history. He was eventually affected by polio and lead poisoning and was left confined to the bed. He was in need of extensive assistance even to rise from the bed. This encouraged him to formulate an elaborate system of pulleys and ropes. At the age of 55, he succumbed to death after being strangled by one of his pulleys. Both of his inventions ravaged him. The next one is Jean-Pierre de Rozier. He was the first man to ascend in a hot air balloon along with the Marquis d'Arlandes. Though studying pharmacy in Paris, he was drawn towards chemistry and experimental physics. He is the man behind a breathing apparatus similar to scuba gear, which helps workers working in a hazardous environment. He was well known for using extremely theatrical and even more dangerous methods of practically displaying his lectures to grab public attention. It is this habit of being the center of attraction got him into tragedy. He volunteered to ascend the balloon along with Marquis. Rozier was envious of tandem Jeanpierre, the first man to cross the English Channel along with Dr. John Sheldon on 26 July 1784. Rozier designed a new type of double balloon with a hot air balloon underneath a hydrogen balloon. On 15 June 1785, Rozier died as he fell to the earth. Although the reasons are unknown, it is expected that a spark from the heat source might have ignited the hydrogen, causing a fire. William Bullock. American-based William Bullock improvised Richard March Hoy's rotary printing press in 1863. Due to the increased speed and efficiency, this revolutionized the printing industry due to its great speed and efficiency. He also has designed and invented various devices such as cotton and hay press, a seed planter, a lathe cutting machine, and a grain drill. Bullock's presses allowed for automatic continuous large rolls of paper, eliminating the back-breaking hand-feeding system of earlier presses. The press could print up to 12,000 sheets an hour, which later improved to 30,000 sheets an hour. All went well until a deadly mission. On April 2, 1867, while adjusting new presses that was being installed for the Philadelphia Public Ledger newspaper, his right leg was crushed accidentally in the mission when trying to kick onto a pulley. After a few days, he developed gangrene. On April 12, 1867, Bullock died during an operation to amputate his leg. The next one is Thomas Andrews. Thomas Andrews was an Irish businessman and shipbuilder. As the head of the drafting department, one of his first jobs that Thomas Andrews was to work on 3 massive superliners. The Titanic was one among them. Taking every step towards attention to detail while designing, Thomas Andrews first suggested that the new superliners have at least 46 lifeboats, watertight bulkheads, and a double body frame to protect the ship from collisions. Though his suggestions were the best, most of them were ignored by upper management. Andrews and a group of Halland and Lewis workers, also known as the Guarantee Group, were on board the biggest ship in the world, Titanic, set on her maiden voyage. The Guarantee Group was responsible for the safe working of the Titanic through consistent administration and recommending the required specifications. On 14th April 1912, at 11:40 p.m., when Titanic struck the iceberg, Andrews observed the slight vibration. After a series of discussions followed by inspection, he conveyed Captain Smith that Titanic only had an hour to an hour and a half to life before it submerges into the ocean floor. Being aware of the number of lifeboats and people it can fit in, he did the level best to evacuate as many as possible. Some survivors testified seeing Andrews on the boat deck finding life jackets. Encouraging people to get into the lifeboats and guiding the officers, the body of Thomas Andrews was never recovered. For his efforts, Thomas Andrews was considered a hero who sacrificed his life for others. Max Valya. Austrian-based Max Valya was a rocketry pioneer who helped found the German VFR Spaceflight Society on July 5, 1927, which was the world's largest beginner-level rocketry society. Devoted his life to the research of rocket science, Max Valya continued to spread the spaceflight popularity within Germany throughout his life. Determined to advance rocketry on the Earth as well as in space, Valya set up a systematic program with 4 stages of development. The first stage would be static engine experiments, which would be used in ground-based rocket-powered vehicles in the second stage, followed by production of rocket-assisted aircraft for the third stage, and finally the development of complete rocket-propelled spaceship. After considerable and successful first stage engine tests on March 15, 1928, Valya moved on to the second stage, in which he built the world's first rocket car with a speed of 145 miles per hour along with Fritz von Opel and Sanders. This was later developed into a rocket sled by 1929 with a speed of 250 miles per hour. This encouraged Valya to begin the third stage of his research by experimenting with liquid propellant rockets for aircraft. On May 17, 1930, while testing, one of his liquid oxygen gasoline fueled rocket motors exploded in Berlin. Horace Lawson Finlay, lawyer and merchant by profession. Lawson Finlay was a Confederate marine engineer during the American Civil War. He always had a thing for submarines and thus helped to build them. He developed early hand-powered submarines, the most famous H.L. Finlay, named after him. He helped in designing and building 3 different models and was ultimately killed by his third design. His first submarine was built in New Orleans, which was internationally sunk in 1862 when the city fell to the Union. Although his second submarine also sunk in Mobile Bay in Alabama, he didn't give up. Finlay funded his third submarine himself and thus carried his name. On October 15, 1863, though he was not part of the crew, Finlay decided to take command during a routine test. The vessel again sank. Finlay, along with his 7 crew members, died in the waters of Charleston. When the Confederacy recovered the sunken sub, few of the crew members were alive, but unfortunately Finlay died. The raised vessel was later used again in the first successful sinking of an enemy vessel by a submarine in a naval history. But the submarine sank too. Thank you friends, thank you for watching the video. We hope these stories would serve as lessons for those of us who dream big and strive for it. Friends, please like, share and subscribe to the channel Tech Soldiers powered by D&D.